Hi everyone, it's Paul. Welcome to my video for day 2 of the 2024 Cheltenham Festival. Recording this one a bit earlier today. It's still 2 hours as I'm recording this until the opener at Cheltenham. But given the deluge of rain we've had last night and this morning, going is currently soft at Cheltenham, but I'm hearing in the next half an hour, it's about to turn to heavy, soft in places. I think we can pretty much guarantee the soft, even heavy ground tomorrow. So I don't think it's something we have to wait for. Plus, as well, after day 1, the ground chews up a bit. So, yeah, it'll definitely be on the soft side. So I'm recording this video now. Okay, day 2 starts off with the 1:30, which is now called the Bingham novices hurdle to grade 1 over 2 mile 5. And for me, this is all, it's not original. It's all about one horse, which is Ballyburn. Paul Townend takes the ride. Willie Mullins, the jockey, 2 for 3 over hurdles. Group 1 winning latest, and it was his best run to date. Jumped amazing, and on that day at Leopardstown, they actually omitted the final flight to hurdle. But what I liked was he came there, and you're thinking, well, you know, will something quick, and nothing could get near him. And the further he went, the better he looked, and that's why I said in the video yesterday, I was really hoping he goes for this 2 mile 5. Which is exactly what he's doing. All breeding as well suggests he'll get further. One mad thing about this horse, and keep an eye out for it on the Wednesday, it's his head carriage is mental. I've been watching it this last couple of runs. He kind of sticks his neck out and almost looks at the floor when he's running. You're thinking, God, can you even see where you're going? But obviously the talent's there, and to be honest, he looks a superstar. He's very much for me in the same mold as Sam Crow going back about 5-6 years ago, in that he's a big strapping horse, very strong, gallops all day, and he looks like the proverbial good thing. Of the rest of it, Il Atlantique is in here as well for Willie Mullins. He's 1 for 2 over hurdles and was only beaten into second by a neck in a grade 1 latest, and he was well clear of the third. In normal circumstances, you'd go, yeah, this horse has got every chance. It's just, I think there's a potential superstar in the lineup. Gidley Park for Harry Fry is interesting, and because there's a couple of interesting ones here for the English traders. Gidley Park won a grade 2 at Cheltenham in January on trials day, getting up very late in the game, and that was very bad ground that day, so he showed a really good amount of stamina, which I liked. He's unbeaten in his career, 3 for 3 over hurdles, 2 for 2 over bumpers. I've got absolutely nothing to put you off backing or looking at Gidley Park. I think he's a very good horse, and that course form in the book is potentially very good as well. The other one who's a big price, who could run a big race, is Handstands for Ben Paulin. It's another one, completely unbeaten. Won a listed race, the latest. And yeah, it was a good run. It runs to a good mark at a decent time in the ground. There could be more to come, but he will have to find more. He will have to find a lot more. He's not as battle-hardened as some of the ones ahead of him in the market. And one who I think is also a good opportunity for them to get at least some prize money on this one today is Predators Gold for Willie Mullins. Danny Mullins taking the ride. He's come second in a couple of Group 1s in his last couple of starts and running to a quite consistent level. It's still a long way below Ballyburn's level, but you know, if Willie Mullins can get a bit of improvement out of him, I think there's definitely an opportunity for him to run a solid race. But for the 1, 2, 3 here, we're going for Ballyburn from Il Atlantique and Gidley Park, which moves us on to the 2:10, which is the Brown Advisory Novices Chase. It's a grade 1 over 3 mile, formerly known, and I'll always call it the RSA Chase. The odds-on favourite for this, probably about the last month or so now, has been Factor File. Paul Townend taking the ride for Willie Mullins, JP McManus colours. Very much been a talking horse on the preview night circuit, but I'm actually opposing this one today. Which you might think it might turn out to be crazy. All of his best form has been over obviously 2 mile 4. This is a pretty significant step up in trip to 3 mile on lightly heavy ground. Now, obviously, this horse ran a screamer in the Champion Bumper last year, so it's quite incredible that he's gone within 12 months from a bumper to not even running over hurdles to 2 and 2.5 mile chases and up to 3 miles. He could be a potential Gold Cup horse because he's being spoke about in that one. But until I actually see that, I'm not going about. I'm looking at it now. He's 4-6. I can't go 4-6 about that one. Monty Star's in here for Henry de Bromhead, Rachel Blackmore. He was very, very impressive on New Year's Eve and has run to a consistent level of form. As I said yesterday, Henry de Bromhead's horses gain another leg at Cheltenham and really step up the game. He needs to find more, and I think there's more to come. And I think Monty Star is a really, really good bet to hit the frame. I'm very gutted, in a way I'm gutted. Giovinco is running in this, and I understand why. With the prize money available, there's some unknowns over the ground for some, and very decent prize money. I really fancied, as I said yesterday, Giovinco for the Ultima, but he goes here instead. Do you know what? Especially if it's heavy ground, he could run well for a long way, but I just think if it comes down to the class, I just think there's more class animals in this field. Now, American Mike is interested for Jack Kennedy and Gordon Elliott. He was supplemented for this race, which at the time I thought, that could mean a lot. But then, take it into consideration, there's only, 7 horses in the race? 7, 8 horses in the race? You don't have to finish that high up to go and get your supplementary fee back. And if you run really well, happy days. But this, in his own right, American Mike is a very, very good horse. Won the Group 2 10-up chase on his latest start. My concern is, overall, he's just a little bit inconsistent. That is the concern I have. So on the balance of form, if he's on a going day, he's got every chance. But on the balance of form, it just puts you off slightly. But for the winner, I'm going for a homegrown winner, and that is Stay Away Faye, Paul Nicholls and Harry Cobden. 2 wins at the start of the season, superb. Travelled well, jumped well, and he's just a boat. He's a tank. He's just an absolute out-and-out stay. You can see it already at this relatively young age. But what I really liked is, in the Cotswold Chase on trials day here, he stepped out of novice company to take on tried, tested, veteran, for want of a word, chasers, and he equipped himself very, very well to come third and wasn't beaten that far at all. He was actually slightly inconvenienced when Ahoy Senor, I think his saddle slipped and he kind of got caught on heels. I don't think that helped him. He was put away for this. This has always been his target. And Paul Nicholls, when you listen to his stable tour, clearly loves this horse and thinks it's got a big future. So I think Stay Away Faye here, currently at around 9-2 in places. I think that's the value bet here. 1, 2, 3 for the Brown Advisory. Stay Away Faye, From Fact to File, and Monty Star. Which moves us on to the 250, which is a race I'm not a massive fan on, unsurprisingly, which is the Coral Handicap Hurdle, 2 mile, 5 furlongs, Group 3 race. Saint Majeste is the favourite, and understandably so, for Willie Mullins. Only 2 UK runs, was awful on the debut last year, but then has stepped forward from that one this season, which is not uncommon with horses coming from France. Well, that day he beat Noble Yates very, very easily on his only run this season. Okay, Noble Yates has got more tried, tested races to come, but it's a very, very solid piece of form. Put away since then, probably to protect his handicap mark. I think this is a very, very good. I've got a very, very good chance. Langadan for the Skeltons is now becoming a part of the furniture at Cheltenham. Won this race last year, loves Cheltenham. He's had his issues. I know some people who connected to different people in that yard. The horse has certainly had some issues. That's what I do know. But he's right back to his best form now, I'm being told. He is £4 higher this year, loves soft ground. And I think all things being equal, he's another one you can almost put the mortgage on him running a good race, all things being equal. Doddy the Great is interesting for Nico de Boinville, Nicky Henderson. Very, very consistent and a great weight here. He came second at the course at Cheltenham in December, which on paper is a very, very good thing. But What I would say is this: that form has been let down by the winner and the fourth since. So that is something that we have to take into consideration here on the overall balance of things. Plus, at this stage, the unknown about the Nicky Henderson yard form. Now, Built by Ballymore is really interesting. JJ Slevin rides for Martin Brazel. He wasn't on my list for this, but he was for I think he was in the Pertams because I really fancied him over 3 mile because this is a dour stayer. Won his last two, so he's going the right way. The fact it's gone soft heavy now, they're going to 2 mile 5. I wasn't confident when it was good to soft. Now it's gone properly soft. I think this horse has got a serious chance. As with the Coral, there could be anything lurking at the bottom, but on all known form, these are the ones to look at. 1, 2, 3 then for the Coral handicap hurdle. I'm going with Saint-Megiste from Languedan and Built by Ballymore. Which brings us on to the 3:30, which is the main event of day 2, the Queen Mother Champion Chase, another Grade 1 over 2 miles. I don't think it's a small field and it's not an overall vintage renewal. Last night, for fun, I was watching some of the old classic champion chasers, like my favourite of all time, as everyone who's watched this long enough knows, Flagship Uberalis, when he won his champion chase. You look who was in behind, and you had your Native Upmanships, Edredon Blur, Senkos. There was loads where you go, very, very good horses. And even in subsequent years, still after that one, some of the names in it, Well Chief, Azertu, Moscow Flyer, there's been so many. I don't think, even El Fabiolo here, I don't think there's potentially a horses of that class here. If there is one, it's likely to be El Fabiolo, and he's short priced, but understandably so. El Fabiolo, Willie Mullins, Paul Townend, unbeaten over fences, won the Arkle last year, done nothing wrong. Well, if you're unbeaten, you've done nothing wrong, have you? His style of jumping does worry me slightly because he gets unbelievably low to his fences, which I suppose is like the French style of doing it. But he beat John Bon fair and square last year by nearly 6 lengths in the Arkle. John Bon hasn't had the greatest preparation this time around, while El Fabiolo has. It makes El Fabiolo not a great betting prospect, but impossible to oppose. John Bon's going to have Nicky Henderson on board. John Chou. Let me get my words out. John Bon is going to have Nico de Boinville, I think, on board. Nicky Henderson taking the ride. Came second in the Arkle last year. It's interesting because people said, I saw a comment the other day, he doesn't go around Cheltenham. Well, he came second in the Supreme behind a horse called Constitution Hill, which, anyone will get battered there. He came second in an Arkle to El Fabiolo, who is unbeaten. And, latest, he disappointed in the rearranged, I think it was the Game Spirit, wasn't it? It was rearranged to Cheltenham after it was lost, behind Elixir du Nuit, who reopposes here. But he wasn't right that day. Nicky Henderson said he wasn't right. He ploughed through 4 out, yet rallied and only went down a neck, which is a superb performance. He's also, remember, won the Schlur Chase here this year. So that is a proper piece of form. So even though he hasn't had the best one, I love John Bon. People who follow me long enough know I love the horse. I just don't think he's got enough to turn it on El Fabiolo today. Edwardstone was favourite for this race last year, and I would have said, I tipped it up last year. I thought he had every chance. Finished down the field. Turned out he was injured, which was such a shame. And the injury he had, I think it was in his back as well. The bit that frustrated me is, for me, if you're running in a Grade 1 champion race, you get him checked out. You leave no stone unturned before you go to the course. So the fact that his jockey that said, so I think it was Tom Cannon that day, said, we didn't feel great going to post and knew after a fence he was beaten. You're like, well, why didn't you just make sure he's okay? He's been woefully out of form since then, never been right until his latest run at Newbury, where he was brilliant and he resorted to front running. Will he do it again this year? I think he'll have to. Because what I would say is horses, as they get older, they get wiser, they get more clued up. Look at Corto Star. Corto Star was very much a hold-up horse in his early career, even over 2 mile. Came through late, went away. In the twilight of his career, when he suddenly burst back to form, winning the Betfair Chase, and he won another King George, etc., he was front running and he was dead prominent. They just get a bit wise and you need to do it, vary it up a bit. So I think Edwardstone will do that. And if he matches that form, he'll run a good race. Captain Guinness is now becoming another standard dish for the Cheltenham Festival. Rachel Blackmore for Henry de Bromhead was placed in this race last year, albeit beaten a good way. He was third in the Arkle the year before. At 9 approaching 10, it would be a shock if he was to win, but he likes the softer ground and it wouldn't be the biggest shock in the world if he ran a big race. Elixir de Nuits have just mentioned, beat John Bon last time, but on level weights today, and on all things being equal, I'm happy to put that down as a shock rather than, he's a dead good grade 1 horse, which he's good, but I don't think he's that good, to be honest. But for the 1, 2, 3, for the Queen Mother Champion Chase, El Fabiolo, from John Bon and Edwardstone. Nothing original, but you've got to call it. The 4:10 is the cross-country chase. It's the quirky race of the meeting, but I do love the cross-country. It's a Class 2 over 3 mile 5. Now, the interesting one is here. This course, I found out about an hour ago, is currently, there's big patches of it underwater because of the rain that they've had in the last 24 hours. I don't think there's much rain left in the area. So I wouldn't be surprised, and I know what I would do if I was the clerk of the course, which I'm not. I would move the race from the Wednesday to the Thursday or the Friday, purely because by the looks of the weather forecast, and I've got it on my telly here while I'm recording this, the weather is due to pick up a bit later on this afternoon and Wednesday. I don't see the point in, when there's standing water on the course, trying to sandwich it in on the Wednesday, move it to the Thursday or the Friday. Might not happen, probably won't happen, but that's just my opinion, guys. But let's call the race as it is. Delta Works in here. What an absolute legendary horse. Coming back to, I think this is his 7th Cheltenham that he's been to now, which is just insane amount. So good. Gordon Elliott trains him. Former winner of this, 2-time winner of this race. He's 11 years old now. His form hasn't been the same in this season when he's been seen, but he's much lighter race this time around. I think when they do that with older horses, it's like they think they've got one last dance in them, and the heavier the ground, the better for Delta Work. Galvin is another one who's loves coming back to Cheltenham and loves this race. Another one for Gordon Elliott, second in this race last year. And for me, I think he got the trip and all of that, but I just think he was outstayed. Now, on likely softer ground, I think someone's likely to outstay him. The concern as well is he ran over course and distance earlier this season in one of what I always call the trials for this, but it's a handicap, and he was shocking and finished way down the field, and his form just hasn't been there this year. And old Cocoa Beach, another for Gordon Elliott, and this one's for Jigginstown, like Delta Work. He's in here. Now, I love Cocoa Beach. He's been a bit of a standing dish in the Grand National in recent times. My concern is, and I suppose it's not a concern when you think about it like this, he doesn't stay the Grand National trip. I think that's pretty obvious at this stage now. But he was there until, well, when was it? You come off the canal turn down, you cross the Melling Road for the last time on the other side, and he just seems to blow up from the last bend in. Now, what I would say is this. He loves these quirky fences. He even got a second in the Beecher Chase at Aintree earlier this season, and one of the fences on the cross-country is called the Aintree Fence. So I think now he's a bit long in the tooth for regular fences, and these cross-country and Grand National fences bring the best out of him. He's never tried the course before. Now, while he likes a Grand National fence, who's to say he's going to like the cheese wedges or the open bank or the timber rails? There's no way of knowing until he's gone there. But what I would say is this. Gordon Elliott has brought his horses over earlier this year, and there has been some schooling and different walking the track being done at Cheltenham. So he will have him, if he takes the course, ready for this. Now, the one to mention at a bigger price, Diesel Dallier is in here. This horse runs on this cross-country all the time. His standard modus operandi, for want of a word, seems to be he's usually up there, and when they get on the final small circuit, he gradually drops off. But I want to give him an honourable mention because I love the fact they keep coming back and trying with him, and the horse seems to enjoy the experience, so good on him. One to mention as well, Statler for Willie Mullins, same colours as Galvin. He actually won the 4-miler 2 years ago. I tipped him up and we won on it, if you remember rightly. But his recent form, I know you could say he came third last time out, but he was absolutely smashed. And his recent form just isn't there, and I can't say it with confidence. But for the winner, and those who will know who followed my I did a short video at Christmas in December. I mentioned it then, and I've mentioned it on the WhatsApp service enough, and I've backed him from about 6-1, currently around 2-1. So I'm happy, is Manila Indo for Henry de Bromhead. He is the class horse of the race. He is a Gold Cup winner. End of story. He's also been placed in an RSA, been placed in another Gold Cup. In terms of quality, he's probably the highest quality horse to ever run in the race. And Tiger Roll's a legend. Don't get me wrong, he's an absolute legend, one of the best ever. But he never won Gold Cups or got placed in RSAs and getting placed in more Gold Cup. Manila Indo is world class. He took to the course really, really well in December. That day as well, it was a handicap. He was giving weight to the entire field. Now, he only got beaten 5 lengths, but look at the 2 horses who finished in front of him. One of them is actually going for the Grand National, I believe, now. But if late night pass, if you look at it, he gave 1 stone 9 and 1 stone 12 away to the front 2. Only went down 5 lengths. What was more noticeable that day is that he was held up in last throughout, and then made up all the ground on the last circuit. What I suspect, and I've spoke to some people on this one, because I know a few people are connected to various yards over there, and I think it was a sensible move. They didn't know if Manila Indo was going to take to the course, and when you've got a legendary horse like that, you've got to be careful with him. Do you know what I mean? He's got a lot of public support. So what they did, I think they've held him up extreme, let him come into it in his own time. You know what I mean? Let him come in, hop around. Does he like the course? Yeah, stayed on really well. I think he'll be much more prominent this time. He's got form on very soft going. And yeah, this is 3 mile, 5 furlongs. But if you're winning a Gold Cup on the new course over 3 mile, 2.5 furlongs, I think you're going to get the 3 mile 5 here. And he showed it the way he stayed up the hill in the trial race. And I just think for all Delta Work's been a legend, 11 years old now, he's got everything in his favour. I just think Manila Indo might just have that little bit something too much for him. 1, 2, 3 then in the cross-country chase, Manila Indo from Delta Work and Cocoa Beach. The 450 is the Grand Annual Handicap Chase, Grade 3 over 2 miles. Now, those who follow my video on Monday who asked for a multiple, one of the ones I was very, very confident on for this week has stood his ground, and he is running. When I tipped him up on Monday, I hope you got on. The price was around 10, 11 to 1. I've just checked now. He's into 7 to 1 now. The money is coming, and it's not a surprise. And I'll start with the selection, which is Liberty Hunter. Evan Williams trains Harry Cobden. Very, very interesting jockey booking. Evan Williams is another one. He just seems to, in handicaps, get his horses ready for Cheltenham. He's won his last 2 races, this one, including over course and distance. And what I loved about it was the way, see, people say about staying on the hill. What I loved about Liberty Hunter was the way he travelled down the hill. He came off the, there's an open ditch at the top of the hill and swung in off the bend, and he travelled down the hill brilliant, took the third last really, really well. And I thought, he's loving the course, and then stayed on really, really well. Loves soft ground. The softer, the better for him. And got in, by the looks of it, you know, could change. Well, I doubt he could at this point. Depends on withdrawal. But 10 stone 11 is just insane weight. There's nothing. I can't come up with a negative against Liberty Hunter other than you can get bad luck in running in the Grand Annual. It happens. Harper's Brook is in there as well here for Keelan Woods. Ben Paulin trains. He took a step forward latest. And based on that and his weight, you would say he's got a great chance. The thing that is putting me off this one is he's had 4 runs at Cheltenham and every one has been a stinker. He's just never gone for whatever reason. Never, ever gone. One who I think is overpriced here at 25 to 1, potentially, is Calico. Tristan Durrell, good young claiming rider, rides for Harry Skelton. This is a very, very consistent horse, this, and he's been tried in some really, really good races over the years. He also gave a bit of a shock to John Bon, I think it was, last year in his prep in a 2-horse race at Warwick, and he really gave him a scare. So he's on his day, he's a good horse. He's a front runner, and front runners in this race do have a very, very good record. One who had never won, but I was always like, damn, I wish he could have got his head in front to put a tip up many times, was Gino Trail, big front runner. I forgot the name of it. There was one as well for the Scudamore yard, black and red colours. Won one year, got placed off the next year, going hard from the front. So Calico, nice weight, a bit higher in the weight because he's a bit of a classier horse, good claiming rider, and he can go hard in the front. He jumps well in the main as well. So I think he's overpriced at 25-1. Willie Mullins has left in Saint Roir here for JP McManus. Now, this horse has got to have a great chance here with Mark Walsh taking the ride. He hasn't had the best year, if I'm being honest. He's not run particularly as nowhere near the mark he did last year, but he was a Grade 1 winning hurdler, so he is not short of class. What I would say is this: for all he's had a poor year, he has been running in like proper full hit graded races, much better quality than this. So this does, I suppose you'd say, signify a massive drop in grade. He has a big weight, but he is the class horse of the race. I just don't know if his form has been, he's just been outclassed in better races, or if he's just out of form, and that's the bit that concerns me. I don't know if this one's going to run. I don't think it is, actually, which is a shame. If it is, I haven't seen the final deck on this. St. Felician for Gordon Elliott. This horse is hit form latest. Another front runner. Loves soft and left-handed, but I don't think it's running. But keep an eye out. I should have checked that before I recorded this. But the last one to mention, who I think will hit the frame, was last year's winner, which is Mascada. For Henry de Bromhead. Very, very, very easy winner of this last year. You could spot him as the winner from the bottom of the hill. Came forward, jumped on, stayed on all the way up the hill. He's not looked like winning a race since, if I'm being completely honest with you. He's run a similar race, he just hasn't been finishing off the race. Now, the devil in me is saying, has this been the plan to come back here this year? So, run a good race, drop a few pound. He's still £7 higher than he was last year, but my take on it's this: even if he had £7 more on his back last year, he still would have won. Granted, no horses retained the Grand Annual, I think, in something like 50 years. It's a very hard task to do, but I think Henry de Bromhead will have him primed and ready for Cheltenham. He seemed to love the course, and I think he's another who could run a really good race. But for the winner, I'm all about Liberty Hunter, and I'm hoping he can do the business. So 7-1, still a great price. 1, 2, 3 then for the Grand Annual: Liberty Hunter from Mascada and Saint Roir. Which brings us to the conclusion of day 2, which is the 5:30, which is the Champion Bumper, Grade 1 over 2 miles. This is always a nightmare race. See, for me, to win a Champion Bumper, you need a stay, because even look at Factophile, who's now favourite for the RSA. He running this last year, ends up now overstaying trips. And you look at all the past winners, Q Card, legendary Q Card, all of his best stuff was over 3. Champagne Fever won this. Yet he did amazing at 2, did amazing things at 3. I think the new one even won this race, possibly, or run well in this race. He did well over 2, even better over further. So you do need a mixture of speed and stamina in this one. And I think I found one who's got it. So the selection is the Yellow Clay for Gordon Elliott. Won 2 bumpers last year. And then put away, so still qualifies for the bumpers. So plenty of experience for a young horse. He then won really easily in a comeback. It was a bit of an egg and spoon race. This was still in last summer, but then was 4th in February this year in his first run. And that was his first run in about 8-9 months. So that was a really, really good run. Now, I think Gordon Elliott's been clever here. Run him in some bumpers, end of season, technically the new start of the new season, but it's still in the summer. Rough him off for a period of time, bring him back to keep his nose in right before the start of the festival. He was hampered that day and finished like a train in pretty bad ground. So I think he would have come on for it fitness-wise. I think he'll be a bit sharper for it. And I think that was a very good run. Currently around 11-1. A lot of paying top 5. I think the Yellow Clay is a very good bet. The favourite here, though, is another Gordon Elliott horse, which is Jalon Duderi. He's 2 for 2 this year, run up to a brilliant racing post rating mark. Definitely more to come, I would say, and I can understand why he's favourite. Another one who could be anything, head of the market, purely because it's Willie Mullins, and Willie Mullins' record in this race is insane. The fact he's got 8, I think it is, in there this year might help. Throw enough darts, one of them's going to hit the board, aren't they, I suppose? But the shortest price one, it seems, is Jasmine DeVoe. Now, he's only had one start in the UK and won by 15 lengths. The form hasn't been tested. He could literally be anything. And unless you're in the know with the yard, then I don't know. There's no way of knowing. The one who I actually fancy, again, because I go for 4 more, is the Mullins third string, effectively it is. And that is, I think he'll make the frame. You ought to know for Willie Mullins. It's his third string. He won his first 2 bumpers before becoming 4th in the Grade 2 bumper at Leopardstown. That was a really good run. And it was in and around the same thing as the Yellow Clay, running a similar type of race. He finished just in front of him, but the Yellow Clay didn't have the benefit of being race fit and was slightly more hampered. So I'm expecting the Yellow Clay to turn the form around. As I said, Willie Mullins' record's insane. This horse loves soft, and he's bred to love soft. You ought to know, around 12 to 1, it wouldn't be the first time that not the Willie Mullins most fancied one goes and wins. Looking at the British runners now, 6 Mile Bridge has been spoken about on some preview evenings for Ben Paulin. Despite only having one run, he had one run, and it was a really, really eye-catching win at Sandown in February. He was bought for a pretty penny, cost over £100,000 this one. So he got an immediate return at Sandown and now coming back here. He was also very good in the point-to-point field over 3 Mile and 3 Mile 4. So he's clearly got an engine and is going to stay this one here. After one run, he's likely to improve. And he's currently around 20 to 1. I wouldn't discourage anyone from it. Obviously, only so many horses can hit the frame. But this horse is, he's kind of proven it, I suppose. Tishan is in here for Paul Nicholls and Harry Cobden. This one cost an absolute small fortune out of the point-to-point field. Really, really good taking debut win at Exeter, where he went from not in the market to like 7 to 1 at the time, and he's around that mark now. Paul Nicholls is keen on him. He doesn't necessarily have the best record in this race, Paul Nicholls, but I can see Tishan being a solid enough contender. It's just a case of whether he's lacking the experience. One I am putting in the frame. Now, just so you're aware, guys, this is a complete flyer. But do you know those sometimes you just get a feeling? Especially with the number of extra places being offered. Royal Infantry for the Skeltons, currently around 50 to 1. And I actually matched a bit on the win at 110 last night on Betfair. I think 50 to 1 on this Royal Infantry is crazy. For one reason, look, he might not be good enough, but 50 to 1, you don't expect a 50 to 1 to win. But I've stumbled upon something here. He won an egg and spoon race on his debut, so what? You know what I mean? Anyone could win that there. But he showed around £17 of improvement to his second run and won a listed race last time out. It was on heavy ground, which he's going to get here. He got caught. Go and watch the race back on one of the players on Racing UK. He got caught behind horses on 2 separate occasions and actually flew home and won going away. It was really, really taken. Now, 2 things have made that stand out. One, he found trouble and still had a turn of foot and had the stamina to get home on heavy going. And the other part is he has found over 1.5 stone improvement there. Now, the interesting one is the time of his last run was actually a second faster than Jalon Duderi, who's the current favourite, on his last run on the same ground. But Jalon Duderi is 9 to 2. And Royal Infantry is 50 to 1. Now, I'm not saying Gordon Elliott won't get a staggering amount of improvement, because I would say, look, for the Skeltons, it's important to get wins at Cheltenham. But with Gordon Elliott, he has quality horses, so he can afford to have horses half cooked and have them ready for Cheltenham. We don't know if he's done that here, but on bare form lines, it's two horses who have run on 2 mile bumper on soft, heavy ground, and Royal Infantry's time, okay, they weren't against each other, was a second faster. So I just think at 50-1, that is just insane. So I'm going to take a flyer and put him to make the frame. 1, 2, 3 then for the 5:30, the champion bumper, the yellow clay from the yellow clay from You Ought to Know and Royal Infantry. Good luck, guys. See you for day 3.